Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm goofy today, but that's what makes me different from any other day. And I just wanted to say real quick that Rochelle, who is the host of the show, is not here today because she's traveling, and she's with her family and is actually in the great city of Seattle, exploring all of its nooks and crannies and all that kind of stuff. So if you're listening, youngster, I want to thank you and for all you do, and looking forward to your return. And today we're going to, if you are a little bit more seasoned, if you're a little bit more seasoned in life and who you are, we've got a great guest for you today. Sabine, pronounce your last name for me so I don't screw it up. Schoepke. And she is an author, and she is a coach, and she's a podcaster, and she's a blogger, and then there's a lot that you do that to get the word out about what you do. And one of them is you talk about you have a book out, and it's called The Love Odyssey, a book about the adventure of relationship exploration, which is a topic for a lot of us, because I don't know about you. I like to say, Sabine, that I was married for 24 years. It was the best 6 months of my life. And after that, I haven't really delved into the world of relationships and getting back together with somebody. And if I could figure out a way that I could hang out with them for a while and then, I don't know, put them in the closet and then, or give them a bed at the foot of my bed or something like that. But apparently I can't do that. And I don't think they'd put up with that. But you are a relationship expert, and you talk about people in midlife who have had some experiences and also have what I like to call is, baggage. We all have baggage, and that we carry around with us. And so welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Well, I wouldn't say I'm a relationship expert. Like, that was just one little fun thing I did, was writing that book, because I was also in a relationship for 22 years. I've never been married, but I was in a relationship for 22 years. And also, I want to say, yeah, those were the best 6 months of my life. And then it wasn't. And then, like, in my 40s, I found myself back out there. And according to my daughter, especially, she was saying, "Mom, you're too young to not be dating anybody." And it took me a little while to wrap my head around this. And then I decided to turn it into a research project. And so that's how I tackled this, and went back out there and I took notes and I did the research. And yeah, I even went on dating apps, and oh my God. So yeah. And then I was asked, due to my podcast, my producer said, "You need a book." And I said, "I know what to write about. I have a research project." And he said, What is it? And I said, dating and midlife.
It's a remarkable experience, this dating and midlife thing.
Yeah.
I tried some dating apps, but I couldn't be sure that the person and what they said about themselves, or the picture that they gave me, or the picture or the picture that I gave them was accurate enough to really strike up a relationship. So you are a podcaster, and the name of your podcast is
The Power Life. But I kind of put that on a shelf right now too. because I got too busy with other things, and I didn't really know how to market it. So I kind of put it on a shelf for a little bit, but I missed it so much that I said, oh, I'm going to fix that by just going on other people's podcasts and I get to speak. And so that's my little security blanket right now.
And I will tell you, for all the people out there that are saying, you know, I want to be like Joe Rogan and I want to make $100 million and do all this stuff. Well, I think doing what Sabine is doing is much better for you than going through all the work of starting a
Yeah,
podcast, coming up with a name, coming up with all the stuff that you got to do, and then you start your podcast and your mother, if she's still alive, or your brother, and a good friend listen and stuff like that, and it takes a long time
it
to do it,
does.
or you have to be passionate about it. I'm passionate about doing this and talking to people like you. So it really is a fun, exciting place for me to be. And I love talking to people like you. So one of the things that you say on your website is realign your life and thrive in midlife and beyond. Why do so many of us think that when we turn 40 or 50 or maybe even 60, that it's all over now and I'm going to retire and go sit on the couch? Why do so many of us do that?
I think there's a number of reasons for that. And um, I feel like many of us have kind of lost ourselves in those first 40 years, once you got out of school and you did what you're supposed to be doing, you get a job and you find somebody to marry, and then you have a bunch of kids, and then you realize this is all a lot of work and a lot of struggle, and you kind of get lost in that. And then you come back out of this and the kids are out of the house and you're exhausted and you just don't feel good anymore. Like physically you don't feel good, and you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, what happened? How did I get here? And I think like the energy level, and I think it's a little different for men and women. I think women, there's a lot more to it because of menopause and the hormones are changing. And then the other thing, I mean, I went through this. I used to be a professional bodybuilder, and then um, one of the things is like about 2 years ago, I stopped that, and my body realized how old it was and said, "Oh, there was this thing called menopause, so let's shift into that." And it hit me like a brick wall. And what it does to you is like it's you don't even recognize yourself. But the thing is, what it also does is, like with women with the hormones, when that sets in, there's something that happens where all of a sudden we realize when those hormones change that we don't have to be people pleasers anymore. And it has to do with your estrogen, and where you're like, I don't have to prove myself to anybody anymore. And that creates even more friction. And then you're like, okay, I gotta redefine myself. I gotta find myself. Like, this is the second chapter of my life. So you become a little unrecognizable to your partner, and a little scary. And so I think there's a lot going on. It's just from empty nesting to changing bodies to relationships that are kind of stale after 20 some years. Like there's a lot of things going on. And to then pick yourself up and say, I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to come out stronger and better than the first half of my life, that takes quite some effort. And yeah, so
It seems to me, because I haven't gone through menopause yet.
not yet.
Don't expect to, but there is a thing called male menopause,
Yes.
but it's not nearly the same thing
No.
as what women go through and stuff. And with I guess there are hot flashes and cold flashes and all kinds of different flashes and stuff like that. And then the kids leave the house.
Yes.
I always found this exciting. The kids leave the house, and then you are looking at one person now that you hardly remember who they are because they were leading their own life and maybe were working a lot, especially when men retire. It's like, don't you have some place to go? My mother used to tell my dad, because because he was now invading her property. It
Yeah.
was her house and stuff. So there's a lot of, when I was young, I didn't think that after 40 there would be that much change, but there's more change after 40 than there was before, because now I have to reinvent myself in a way that I find pleasing to, dare I say it, me.
Right. And there's no guidance. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and um, she was like, "Well, mom, you're free. You can do whatever you want, you know." And I said, "That's the problem for most people, because like when you're in your, I think that like the time before when that happens is like when you're in your 20s, you know, like you come out of high school, but there is this path that's kind of outlined for you, you know, where it's like, okay, you go to college or you learn a trade and you kind of know what's coming. But when you're in your 40s and 50s or 60s, like there's nobody standing there who's like, okay, now you need to do this and this is your option, that's your option. It's almost like, it sounds like when I talk to people that I work with, they're like free falling and they don't even know, okay, so what are my options? And they feel so tied down in so many ways. Like they have all these, well, but I should be doing this and I should be doing that, and then they feel guilty and they feel shame, and so they're stuck. There's this feeling of being stuck. Like, and that's what most people who work with me come to me. There's two reasons. One is they feel stuck, and the other is they feel really alone in this. Because especially if they have done well and they go to their friends and say, but what now? Like, what is this all about? What is this whole life all about? Like, what was the purpose of all of this? They look like their friends, most of them look at them and say, what are you talking about? Go play golf or play bridge, or, you know, and they're like,
Exactly.
no.
Yeah, I went through that when I was 42. It was like, I'd been a restaurateur and I'd been a sales manager and all this kind of stuff. We had the house, had the wife, had the kids, had the dog, had the cat, had the picket fence, and all of that. But I wasn't particularly happy because
Yeah,
why am I really here? What are the
yeah,
secrets to the universe? What is really going on? And what am I supposed to be doing? I came here for something. What is it? And I couldn't figure it out. And then I went through a journey, and here I am. This is where I,
happy as can be.
oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. I'm the luckiest man alive, because I get to do what I want when I want to, and nobody tells me. But that's one of the things. And I had mentors that helped me along the way, and coaches and stuff, because you can't see a lot of stuff
Right,
outside of yourself, of what's going on with you, unless somebody can ask you the questions like, what's going on with you? How do you really feel? What's life mean to you? Because a lot of people don't even ask those questions, because that's not how we were raised.
right.
You go to work, you work for 30 years, and then you raise kids, and then you have a wife, and then you get a younger wife, and then you and then you get a Ferrari, and then you retire, and then you're no longer who you were, and you're not anybody, and then you have to learn to deal with that and all that kind of good stuff. It's tough, this getting older stuff.
Well, yeah, it can be. And you know, I went through that journey, and so I've been a serial entrepreneur all my life. I had a number of companies, and then when my kids, I have twins, so they both left. They graduated high school, and they both left to Europe at the same time. And at the same time, in the same month, I had sold my last company, and I remember sitting at home. The rooms were half empty, like half of the house was empty. There was nobody in there. I had no more business. I mean, I had a ton of ideas, but I was kind of tired. I was like, do that again? Like, really? Why? What for? Like, to collect more zeros on my bank account? What's the point? What's the point of all of this? And at the same time, I found an old vision board underneath because I was cleaning out because the rooms were empty. And I found this old vision board and I looked at that vision board and I realized that every single box on that vision board was checked.
Isn't that
And
cool?
it was awful. I got so depressed. I was like, what? Oh my
Because
God.
because that vision board said that you'd done everything that you
Yes.
set out to do, and there was nothing more for you to do.
Yeah.
So
Like,
then you had to reinvent yourself.
so I had no more North Star. And I always say I'm a daydreamer and a night thinker. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even have like, it's like my dreams were like soap bubbles. They just kind of went poof, poof, gone. And here I was, empty house, no business, no more dreams. I'm like, what's next? Another faster car, a bigger house. And that seemed so, I was like, oh my God, I went from homeless in my 20s, where I started my first company, to this, to having everything and then some. And I looked at this and I'm like, I don't feel any different. How come I'm not happy? How come like this should be the happiest day of my life? Where no, I have arrived. And I'm sitting here crying, thinking it's over, I'm done. Like I might as well just die. Like, what's the point of this?
Well, I
And
surely am glad that you didn't
I
and
know.
that you're here talking to us. We need to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about her journey to self discovery, which is where it used to be called a midlife crisis. Now it's not a midlife crisis. I think it's a midlife awakening of learning about who you really are and why you really came here to be on this earth at this time. And by the way, I don't care who you were born great. And so you need to assume that mantle. And we'll be right back. More with Sabine. And thank you for being here. I really appreciate you.
My great pleasure.
We'll be right back. At 67 years young, I never thought I'd feel this good again. But thanks to Purium's Ultimate Transformation Lifestyle, to date, I've lost 37 pounds and gained energy, confidence, and a whole new outlook on life. This isn't a diet. Purium is a complete lifestyle change, giving me all the natural, organic, nutrition-packed superfoods that fuel my body, crush my cravings, and help me burn fat naturally without starving myself. No gimmicks, no guesswork, just a simple, proven system that works. Superfood shakes, detox support, and real results. If I can do this at 67, imagine what you can do. It's your time to feel better, look better, and live better with Purium. Let's do it now and let's do it together. Go to www.positivetalkradio.net and click on the Transform You to get started. That's positivetalkradio.net. Transform You. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and Brachelle, who's normally here, is not here. She's on leave for the moment. And Sabine Schoepke is here with us today, and I am so pleased that she is here because, you know, half the population is over 40 or more, and so many of us get into that place and we think we've accomplished everything that we're supposed to accomplish in life, and then we find out that it ain't enough. But then we don't have any idea how to make it enough or what to do. And that's why Sabine does the work that she does. She's a coach. She's a podcaster. She's an author. You've done a lot of stuff, by the way.
Yes.
And a bodybuilder. I forgot about that part.
Yes. Yeah.
And my son wanted to be a bodybuilder, and he was. And I said, what was it like for you? I said to him, to go up on stage and wear that skimpy little thing that you were wearing. And he said, oh, you don't even think about it. It's like, oh, really? I would think about it, I would think. So in any event, you've done a lot in your life, but you've got a lot more to do.
I do. And that's what I realized.
When did you discover that?
So when I hit that low, when I realized I had checked all the boxes, I realized I had to kind of reset and redefine, and I knew I couldn't do it in the environment I was in, because I knew I have this shiny object syndrome where I see opportunities and possibilities everywhere. I'm like, oh, this could be a business and that could be one. I'm like, I need to get myself out of here. So in that time, I decided, you know what, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get rid of everything I own. I'm going to disconnect. and I'm going to sit with myself. And so I got rid of everything I owned, house, cars, everything. I narrowed all of my belongings down to 2 suitcases. And on December 31st of 23, I got on a plane and I flew to Munich. And I had a lot of people who did not like that. A lot of people thought I was crazy, who were saying, "Oh, you have a midlife crisis." And like you said, I said, "No, honestly, I don't think so. I think I have an awakening. Like there's got to be more to this life." So no, and people try to shame me and like make me feel guilty. And but what about your kids? And I said, my kids are already in Europe. What are you talking about? Like I'm not abandoning anybody, and they're in their 20s, so we're good. So I left, and I landed in Munich on January 1st, and I rented a car and I drove towards the mountain. Like I was always drawn towards the mountain. And so I went to the German Alps and I found this tiny little, it was like a furnished tiny little apartment in an old farmhouse high up in the mountains where there was nothing. There was no street names, no stores, no nothing. And I was up there for 10 months by myself. And I sat with myself and I realized at the beginning it was really hard. And I kept thinking, you're crazy. What did you do to your life? Like, you like left everything behind, and you had a nice house, you had friends like up here. I don't know anybody, and nobody wants to know me because even though I speak German fluently, I have a little bit of an American accent, and people were like, "American, go away. We don't want you up here." So I was really, really isolated, and I realized that there was a lot of things that had been my band-aids. From the first thing I did was I was looking for a gym. And I realized, what are you doing? You moved this far to now like drag everything with you? No gym, no working out. And I bought a bottle of whiskey because I love whiskey. And I was like, no, we're not doing this. I poured the whiskey down the drain. Like there was a lot of little things. I realized I'd really heightened awareness of what was serving me and what wasn't, and what was band-aids to just make myself feel better. And so I stripped it all away and just got comfortable with myself, which I had never done in my life. And I have to admit, like one of my greatest fears was to be alone. And I was like, what did I do to myself sitting up here by myself, like for months? But I learned about myself, and I did a lot of walking and hiking, but I did a lot of reading and writing, and just really got to like myself, like the way I was, and then found out what it was that I really, really wanted for the second half of my life. But it took me a good, I want to say 6 months of disconnecting and sitting by myself.
And what did you discover that it was going to be?
I discovered that I wanted to serve others with the things that all the lived wisdom, all, whether it was in life or in business, all of those things that I had experienced and the knowledge that I had, the tools that I had acquired, basically that my whole first 50 years of my life had equipped me to now serve others, to help others, to create lives that are truly power lives, where we're not get stuck in the curveballs that life throws us. Because I did a timeline of my life, and I looked at all these things. Like there's crazy things that happened to me, and they happen to everybody. I'm not special at all, but like I had a deformed face for most of my life because I was in an accident when I was 10, and I lived with that and dealt with that and grew beyond that. And the confidence that I got despite what was going on and how I felt about myself. Then I had to deal with cancer, and I had to deal with PTSD from a home invasion where I got brutally beaten in my sleep. Like there was a lot of things that were really, I was homeless, like that were really tough and that could have broken other people. And somehow, once I did a timeline of it and I connected it to, okay, this is what happened and this is how I came out of this, like this was the actual result, I realized, oh my God, every single one of these things has made me stronger. But why is that? What is resilience and where does it come from? And how can we change our perspective on the things that, life throws at us? And so I spent a lot of time on that. And I realized, oh my God, you have so many tools that you take for granted. You could do so much good in this world to support others and help them work through struggles and build financial freedom that's in alignment with who they truly are. Like there's so much, there's such a wealth that I said, I need to go back. So in October, after 10 months, I was ready to go back. So I flew back to California and I said, now I don't, again, just like when I left, I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know how this was going to look and what I was going to do, but I was never afraid of that. So I went back and I said, I'm back. All right, let's just start, jump back in. I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to figure it out doing it. And so this is what I've been doing for the last 6 months, just putting myself out there and finding my way of helping, serving, supporting others in life and in business.
And I have to tell you that, and this is for everybody who's listening to this, and thank you so much for bringing this up in your story, because everything that happens to us in life happens for us.
Yes.
Even the negative things, because we learn from them, we grow from them, we gain strength through them, so that we can then go on to the next phase of what we are here to do. And sometimes it takes a while before we gather all of the experiences that we need to be able to do the things that we can truly do to give back to humanity, because we have to understand who we really are before we can help anybody. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think we need to figure out who we are, but there's this other component which I learned in isolation, was that we need to, and I know that sounds cheesy, but that we need to truly love ourselves. Every aspect of it, like the beautiful, the ones that we were like, oh, I don't like that. Or as a child, I experienced abuse, like really hard stuff. And there was parts of myself that still didn't like myself. And when I realized how whole I was, and that all of these things were really there not to let me succeed despite of them, but because of them, I started to truly love myself for everything that I was. And that changed everything.
Well, the reality is that you cannot love anybody else until you love yourself first. You have to be kind to yourself and give yourself a break because we all, by the way, I don't know. Now, you probably don't ever, but occasionally I'll do something really stupid and stuff. But it's part of the experience of life, and you have to forgive yourself for those things. And you have to continue. We come into this world and we have the body that we have, and we have the color that we have, and we have the sex that we are, and all of that. So we have to adapt to all that, but it's up to us to love whatever that package is, because we created that package before we even got here and stuff. So it's vital that you love yourself. And if you have to go, I encourage everybody, go to the German Alps and rent that cabin and stay there for 10 months, because when you come back, you're a whole different person. I'm willing to bet the friends and family that you came back to said, gee, Sabine, you're like a whole different person now.
Yeah, I heard that many times. But the other thing I also heard was the people who were naysayers before, who were like, what are you doing? And you're crazy. And have you lost your mind? Da, da, da. Those were the people who came back, as I came back, said to me, I wish I could do what you did. So And that's the reality. But saying that, I also want to say that in order to be on this journey and realize these things, you don't need to do what I did. Like mine was dramatic, but it kind of offered itself, like because I've been wanting to go back to the German Alps, and like this was just part of my journey. But everybody's journey is different, and you don't have to take a major leap like I did, like a major step. When people tell me that, they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky you could do that." I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And they're like, I can't. I said, yes, you can. And then I look at their lives and we talk about it. And it's like, there is a gazillion little steps that you can take to make that change. And they're all going to add up to exactly where I ended up. So it doesn't require a big dramatic leap. You can take small steps to get there as well.
If you need to take baby steps because you're scared, you're taking the big steps. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And you're right, Sabine. We need to take our station break, and we will be right back with more because I want to talk to her about the work that she's doing now, and she's working with businesses, and she's an entrepreneur like nobody and like no other, and she's had a quite an eventful life. At the end, I'm going to ask you when we come back, when you're on your last bed many, 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 many years from now, are you going to be able to say, and this applies to all of us, I lived my life well and as good as I could, and I have no regrets? If we can all say that, we've won. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And Brichelle's normally here. She's out on assignment, as they say. She's on vacation. Okay. And but Sabine Schoepke is here with us, and she has got a website, and I want you to go there. It's called thepowerlifecoach.com, and you can find out all about her and the work that she's embarking on. And you must, after doing this for 6 months, and the changes you've had in your life, and the friends who wish that they could have done what you did, and I've had some of those. I said, I had one coworker who was at a party, and he was drunk, and he came up to me and he said, I wish I could have done what you did when you left and went to do the radio. But that was, but and there are people that will not do that, but it's important. And now you're in the business of helping people get it figured out so that they can live their life to the fullest. So on that last day, they can say, I have no regrets. I know that you're not going to have any regrets on that last day, many, many years from now.
No, I won't. That's one of my biggest, I've known this like for most of my life. I said, I don't want any regrets. I'm going to try. And even if I fail on something, and I've failed on many things, but I just redirect it. I don't see it as failure. It's like the process of elimination. That's really how I see it. Life always goes on. Like, so it always goes on. Like I've hit rock bottom many times and lost it all and started over again. And there's something to me, there's even something really exciting about that, of like, okay, let's try again. Let's play.
It's magical.
Yes.
It really is magical. And by the way, Einstein failed at things. Edison failed at things. The best hitter in the history of baseball failed 60% of the time. So failure is part of the
Yes.
journey, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't win if you don't try and you don't fail. I knew with my last business that I had, I said 75% of everything we do in business is going to fail. It's 75, but how are you going to get to the 25 if you don't try at all?
That's right. That's right. And over time, because of the experience that you gain, you say, "Oh, I ain't going to do that again. I'll do this instead," and it creates a much better environment for you.
Yeah.
So you're working with people now? Let's talk about that a little bit. And
Mhm.
you're working with people now. How can they reach you?
So through my website, thepowerlifecoach.com. And then I am really active also on LinkedIn. That's really the business aspect of it all, under my first and my last name. There I hand out daily free advice to people about business and a little bit about life too, but mainly about business on how to, start, scale, grow businesses, because that I really know how to do. And yeah, that's really the only two platforms I'm on, my website and LinkedIn. And I love LinkedIn because for me, it's like, it's very joyful. I love to write, so I can write long form content and just share from my heart and my soul. Because as I came back, I made a promise to myself. I vowed to myself that I will never do anything I don't enjoy anymore, ever. And so, A, because life's too short, and B, because I know that my heart always leads me to the right place. I have seen that in life happen over and over again. And so that's what I follow. That's really my compass.
Well, and that is a basic rule of life, is that everything has a purpose and everything will work out for you. And it's like your vision board that you did so many years ago. And you accomplished everything on the vision board.
Mhm.
So then all you needed to do was to create a new vision board.
Right?
And so you went on a 10-month sabbatical to figure that out, and now you're back stronger than ever. And I would like to submit, by the way, that you're working with businesses primarily, but that transcends into their life. And the things that you're teaching them in their businesses are applicable to what they can learn about their life. And then that will change them, their family, and all those people around them. So and their employees. So
Yeah, actually, it's really interesting because since I've come back, the people that reach out to me are all people in midlife. So anywhere from like even late 30s to, I want to say, end 60s, and who are in some form of transition, whether they've recently gone through or going through divorce, or they lost their job, or they have been ill, and there's some sort of transition they've gone through, which kind of woken them up. And I said, wait a second, there's got to be something else. I gotta, and I don't know what it is, and I feel really lost. And so then they read the things that I share, and these are people who have achieved things in their lives already. They've had or have great jobs, and all of a sudden it all seems so just vain. And so really, is that it? Like, that was what I'm supposed to be doing here? Or they've had their own companies, and they're very successful people. They have all the money in the world, and they find themselves really lonely because they were so focused on achieving that they've never really nurtured the relationships in their lives. So people come to me, and I know, like, I look at life as a three-legged stool. And there is the emotional, there's the physical, and then there's the spiritual part. And if those three legs are not in alignment, even if one leg is off, that stool is going to topple over. So all of the work I do with people, yes, I help them with their businesses or professional lives, but I also work with them on what's going on in here, in their hearts and their souls, and help them find what's meaningful to them, what's fulfilling to them. A lot of people are looking for their purpose, and so it's a beautiful work that really balances every aspect of people's lives. And I remember when I came back, somebody said to me, well, you got to decide, are you a life coach or a business coach? I said, I don't have to decide anything, because A, I don't have to do anything, and B, because I know it's all connected. You can't look at one thing without looking at the other. And even if people come to me and say, oh, my business is stalling, it's not growing, I hit a glass ceiling, even if they don't know that they have inner work to do, it always comes up. And you gotta address both.
You must, and it's part of the journey. And that's what makes it so exciting. If life was easy, well, the one thing is, you can have a lot of money, but money, when you have a lot of money, and I know that you know people that have a lot of money, but when you have a lot of money, it ceases to be a goal that is worth anything, because you've already got the money, and so they don't need that. What they're interested in is relationships and working better with people and giving back and it's so easy for somebody to say, yep, I'm rich, I got lots of money, and then 2 days later they blow their heads off because they don't find any meaning to life.
Yeah, and then people wonder and say, why? He had it all. No,
exactly. But he had nothing.
No, he didn't. And I found that the more money people have, the lonelier they feel. And
I've got a theory around that. And to tell me, and I would love your opinion on this, but when you have a lot of money, people that are around you don't necessarily tell you the truth and are honest with you and are real friends, because you got a lot of money and you might give me some, and I don't want to piss you off. Is that true?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I think there's a lot of fear. The more money you have, the more fear you have. People are a little paranoid, like they have a really hard time trusting other people. But I want to say, I am not against money. Like, we all need money, and we need to have a certain amount in order to sustain ourselves and pay our bills. There's no denying that. Really, all we're saying is there comes a point where there's a diminishing return to the amount of money you have. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter whether you add another zero. It's irrelevant, and that's really what we're talking about. And to focus on money when you're creating your life is the biggest mistake. Like, yes, we got to pay our bills, but when we focus on money, we leave a lot of other things on the table that are so much more important. I mean, look at the blue zones, right? Like, where do people live the longest? Where are the healthiest? Is where people have community, where they have purpose. And those are, in a lot of cases, some of the poorest areas in the world. So there is something to that we neglect when we're so focused on just achieving, and it's not healthy.
That's how we were all raised.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us were raised to be successful, and successful means money. But if you make the paradigm shift that it's not the money is just a tool, but what do you do with it? What are you doing with that tool? Are you using that tool for good, or are you using it to get another yacht? And I want to talk to you about that when we come back, because I think, and I want your opinion, I think if you make that monumental shift from one of I'm rich to one of I have a tool that I can use to help other people, that you will be much happier over life. We'll be right back. It's just 30 seconds, so just relax, everybody, and we'll be right back.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible, she must be a keeper.
I just love that song. And by the way, you're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and we've got a great guest, Sabine Schoepke, and she has been traveling the world, learning at the tender age of something that what life is about, and the secrets. Do you remember I don't know if you've ever seen it, the movie City Slickers?
No.
It was Billy Crystal was in that movie, and one of the characters, he asked him, he was an old cowboy, and Billy Crystal, what's the secret to life? And the old gentleman put one finger up, and he said, "What, your finger?" He said, "No, one thing." "Well, then what is that one thing?" Billy Crystal asked, and he said, "That's what you have to find out, and nobody else can tell you what that is."
Actually, somebody told me what it is.
Oh, they did? What is it?
Yes. So I was on a flight while I was in Europe. I actually ended up going to Greece because flights are really cheap in Europe. It was like $19 to fly to Greece. So I went to Greece and I was sitting, it was a cheaper airline, and they assigned seats to you. So I got on and I had this older man sitting next to me, and I could immediately feel the energy was so beautiful. Oh my gosh. And we started talking. It was the best 3-hour flight. I wish this flight would have lasted 10 hours. And at the end of the flight, he said so he was a monk, an Italian monk who went to a monastery in Greece. And at the end of the flight, he said to me, he said, "Do you know what's the most important thing in life?" And I said, "Well, the way you're asking, I'm just going to give stupid answers. Like that's way too obvious. Like love. I don't know." And he was like, no. And I'm like, yeah, I knew it. So he made me guess like 2-3 times, and then he revealed it. The most important thing in life is to realize that we all have the power of choice.
That is beautiful, and that is so true.
And it resonated when he said it. I was like, oh, wow. But I feel like every day since then, it resonates even more and more. And because the thing is, when people say, oh, I wish I can't do what you did, or, I can't live my life the way you live your life, they don't realize that they do have the power of choice. With whatever is going on in our lives, we choose how we respond, or in many cases react, to things. And that's up to us. It's up to us to realize that we have that power, and then it's up to us to choose whether it's a response or a reaction.
And I went to a class one time, and I like to use this. So I'm plagiarizing a bit, but they said at one point, your life is empty and meaningless. And a lot of people had a real negative idea of, my life isn't empty. I've got this, and I've got this, and I'm there, and I'm here, and I'm there. And he said, no, you misunderstand. Your life is empty, which gives you the freedom to fill it up with whatever you want. And your life is meaningless until you decide and choose what the meaning of your life is going to be, which is an extraordinary, empowering thought when you think about it.
It's beautiful. But it takes courage.
It does. But life takes courage just to get out of bed sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes. And like what you said earlier about like when you have made some money, I realized with money, there comes an obligation to do good in the world. And there comes like a responsibility. And when I think of responsibility, I think of the ability to respond. What do you do with that? Are you going to let it go to your head and you have a big ego? And like that's one way to respond to that. But the other one that actually fills you up way more than the money does is to respond by giving back, by helping others, by serving others. That's what makes life so rich and meaningful and fulfilling. And so there's no shame about money depending on how you respond to it and what you do with it.
Well, yeah, and it seems to me now I don't have $1 billion, and by the way, for those of you that have trouble wrapping your head around how much of money $1 billion is, that's 1,000 million. So that's and if you've got 100,000, that's so 1,000 million, and there are people, and I suppose it's a game because they want to get as rich as they can, but there are other people that have chosen the Bill Gates Foundation for one to give back, and he's not going to ever need the money. He can't possibly spend that all on himself. But and so there are other people, and I hope that there are more, Sabine, that will say, can't take it with me. I like to tell a story of the rich man who died, and he told his wife, "I want you to put all my money in my coffin with me because I'm going to take it with me." And so she wrote him a check and put it in his coffin. Because you can't take it with you, and it doesn't matter anyway. You came in naked, and you're going to leave naked, and there's nothing you can do about any of that. So live your life to your fullest extent and don't have any regrets like you're doing. And now I got to ask you, the last 6 months, how's it gone for you? Do you feel free and different and light and loving and caring and all that?
I do. And the thing though is, and I think that's what people also don't realize, it's not like I've arrived at this enlightened state, like I am still a human and I still have my old programming in me of being very German and very focused and very disciplined and very hardworking and getting things done and all of that. And it's not that easy to like completely delete that hard drive. So, and that's the thing, like we will never arrive. And that's one thing I remind myself of when I need to give myself a little grace and say, it's okay. Like you don't need to push so hard, but it's a completely different life today. My focus is elsewhere. And like this morning, I got a message from somebody who there's a lot of people out there I just help because I just want to help. And a lot of them are afraid to ask because they're like, oh no, like this is what she does. I need to pay her. But I just help because it makes me so darn happy to help. And then I get pretty much on a daily basis messages from people who are like, oh my God, thanks to you, like I've overcome this, or I achieved this, or I got a new job, or I left this abusive marriage, or whatever it is, and like that's where I'm like, these are my wins. And it makes me so darn happy. And yeah, so it's awesome. Yeah. It's a different life.
It is, and it's awesome. And by the way, you're going to be continuing to learn and to teach and to share and to give your entire life, because I know, and I know this for a fact, service to others is the highest form of godlike or the universal acceptance there is. The universe, God, whatever you choose to call it, they want us to be in service to others. That's why we're here. And the better that you understand that, and you're living it, and you're doing it. And so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, let's go through that again, because we're running out of time, dang it. I got so much more to ask you, but we're running out of time. But I want to make sure that if anybody who's listening to this now or is listening to this later, if you need to get a hold of this fine lady to work with her, she can help. And it oftentimes takes a coach. Well, it all the time takes a coach, because you can't see what you can't see. And so give us your information again, Sabine.
Actually, I have to tell you this. Somebody said to me the other day, and I had never heard this before, you can't see the picture from within the frame. Have you heard this before?
Yes. And I got another one for you too. You'll never see what your butt looks like as it really is, because all you see is a mirror of it. So there are things that it's not possible for you to know, because you don't get to see the whole picture. And but I love that you can't see the picture from inside the frame.
Yes,
that's really cool.
And I've always had mentors and coaches who've guided me along. Nobody is meant to do this journey alone. We're meant to live in a tribe or in a community, or and sometimes if we don't have that, we can't like rewire the brain with the same brain that got us there. It's just not possible. So it's okay to ask for help. And usually, like for me, it's always been the teacher has always appeared when I was ready to take that next step.
And that's the way the universe works.
Yes.
Because when you ask for it, and it may not happen in the time frame that you want it to happen in, but the universe and your guides and your angels are up there saying, no, not yet. We got you. We want you to do this first, and then this, and then experience this, and then you'll be ready.
Yeah. And often it comes in a different shape and form than you expect. Also, you got to let go of your expectations and just go. It's like, I think of it as like going down a lazy river. Just go down, and sometimes it speeds up, and sometimes you hit the sides, but you just got to go with it and just let it take you of where you're meant to go.
I have to tell you, Burchelle, who's the host of this, I have a saying I have with her, because it's the gospel according to Paul McCartney. Are you familiar with the gospel according to Paul McCartney?
Yes.
Let it be.
Yes.
Let it be, and let it happen on your behalf. And everything will happen on your behalf. Does that mean it's all going to be great? Probably not. But you're going to learn from it, and you're going to grow from it. If you want to get a hold of this fine lady,
I'm sorry.
The Power Coach, or the powerlifecoach.com is where you go. The powerlifecoach.com. I was so excited. And you can go to LinkedIn and a bunch of other places. And we've just got a minute, so I want you to leave something with our audience that you would love for them to know.
You don't need to have all the answers. If you think you need to plan it all out and you need to have all the answers before you take that step, whether it's big or small, don't. Because the magic happens when you take that first step. The next step, it's going to present itself. And you will know what to do. So take that step. Because
you'll regret it if you don't.
Yes. That's worse. Like, you can't undo that.
That is so true. Sabine Schoepke has been our guest, and I want to thank you so much for being here. You're going to have to come back. We have more to talk about.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank everybody for listening. Everybody have an outstanding afternoon or evening or morning or wherever you are in the world. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at